Pete Ricketts and Deb Fischer are both supporting this bill that would add a $1,550 tax at the time of purchase to an EV. Part of it, when Deb Fischer was first saying, she was trying to say that some EVs weigh 3 times as much as their gas counterparts. That's not even remotely true. She tried to give this example of a 3,000-pound Ford F-150. There is no such thing as a 3,000-pound Ford F-150. They weigh the gas-powered ones weigh something like 5,750 approximately, 5,750 pounds, and the EV weighs 6,100 pounds, like 350 pounds more. If it's only a one-time fee for the life of the vehicle, something like $500 would seem probably more appropriate. Hi, I'm David with EV World News, and I'm here today with our founder and chief editor, Bill Moore. How's it going today, Bill?
It's going well, thank you. Beautiful day here on the Great Plains. So
I get you. Yeah, well, it's interesting to see some of the things that are going on. We've got this new bill to impose a tax on electric vehicles, and it's been supported by our 2 Nebraska senators. And they're proponents of it. Pete Ricketts and Deb Fischer are both supporting this bill that would add a $1,550 tax at the time of purchase to an EV. So this is kind of the opposite. So we got, on the one hand, the government giving out money to promote the sale of EVs, and on the other hand, throwing an extra $1,500 tax. EVs, there's this theory, and part of it, when Deb Fischer was first saying, she was trying to say that some EVs weigh 3 times as much as their gas counterparts. That's not even remotely true. I know in the case of BMW EVs, their gas-powered versions are heavier than the electric versions.
Yeah, we gotta put some numbers up on that at some point here. So
no, I know that, but in most cases, a comparable EV is going to probably weigh 10% more. She tried to give this example of a 3,000-pound Ford F-150. There is no such thing as a 3,000-pound Ford F-150. They weigh the gas-powered ones weigh something like 5,750 approximately, 5,750 pounds, and the EV weighs 6,100 pounds, like 350 pounds more.
That's what I like to hear, numbers.
That's only 5% heavier, okay? That is not a significant difference in this case. Their idea is to impose a fee of $1,550 at the time the vehicle is bought. Now, the one advantage to this is the first buyer of the car is probably the one that can afford to pay the tax. Okay, so the government actually does collect the tax. You're not worried about collecting it, 10 years later or whatever. But the thing is, the taxes on cars, here in Nebraska, you're already paying, when you renew your tags on an EV, you're already paying an extra $150 a year for driving an EV. And would you say it is at $75 for hybrids?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I will find out when I go in and again renew the Prius. But so I don't know. I'm not clear as to whether that applies to a standard hybrid or whether that's a plug-in hybrid, of which Prius now, Toyota now has such an animal. And of course, General Motors and Ford and others. So, I should point out that apparently that $1,550 is the maximum amount. That apparently they take the weight of the vehicle and the size of the battery into consideration. That I guess they somehow prorate what that tax is based on, how big the battery is and what the weight of the vehicle is.
Well, you and I both feel that there's probably some fair number, right? But when they start out by saying as much as $1,550, that seems excessive. If it's only a one-time fee for the life of the vehicle, something like $500 would seem probably more appropriate. But that could be the case. Maybe if you bought a Volvo EX30, which doesn't weigh that much, maybe it would only be $500. But they're not really giving that here. But I do know, when I saw Deb Fischer initially proposing this, she was using horribly inaccurate data. She had no clue what she was talking about.
Am I surprised?
Well, yeah, but I'm embarrassed to think that somebody from Nebraska that's managed to get in the Senate, Mike and I discussed this. It's not like Google doesn't exist. Okay, I could understand 40 years ago when we didn't have instant access, or, it's like if only we had a computer in our pocket, which we do today.
Even better, just go use one of the new AI chatbots and just type a simple prompt. What is the average weight difference between an automobile or a picnic, whatever you want to do, and the electric version of that in percentage? Just type that as a prompt. You get in seconds. You don't even have to go to Google and do research on car makes and models and specs. You don't have to do that. You just type the prompt in and bang, it comes up.
So I was doing some of that while we were talking. The weight of a Tesla Model 3 Performance, which is the heaviest version of the Model 3s and the fastest, is about 379 pounds heavier than a similar conventional car. That's probably 10% difference. I mean, it's not a significant amount. If you randomly go looking at just people posting what they think it is, you'll see anywhere from 300 to 300%. People really think the batteries weigh a lot, but then you got to remember you're taking out the engine and transmission and the fuel tank and a whole lot of other things out of
and the differential and the drive shaft
and the radiator, all these things. Most of the drivetrain in a gas car, you're removing and simply replacing it with a battery. And the motors on EVs aren't really all that large.
No, in fact, there are a lot of these motors now where you get a motor that's compact and weighs maybe, what are some of the numbers I've seen? It's like, under 100 pounds. And these things are like 500 or 600 horsepower motors. No comparison. Now, the batteries are heavy. There's no doubt about that. But even that is coming down because we're changing chemistries. We're developing more energy density per cell. Those things are becoming not as much of a sticking point or argument as they might have been with some of the early models.
There's just so much of this is just myth that there's so many myths about EVs but there's always some truth to it, right?
Well, sure.
Because you and I have talked about it. The Hummer EV, maybe it deserves a $1,550 extra tax. It's already $110,000 starting price. Okay. But it weighs 9,000 pounds. There might be a gas car that only weighs a third of that. So if you took that Hummer EV versus, maybe a Nissan Versa or a Toyota Yaris, maybe it does weigh triple. Who knows? I mean, those cars are tiny. That Hummer will also probably carry 3 to 4 times as much too. It's a much larger vehicle. There's no comparison.
Okay, I've got a challenge for the audience. Y'all, particularly if you live in Nebraska, get on the phone, call Deb's Fischer's office if you can get through, and ask them who did the research on these numbers. Let's see the data that you're using. It would be share it with us. I've already, they won't let me through anymore calling them.
You're blocked. Bill is blocked.
Well, that's not quite true. They don't answer. They don't answer. They get so many calls anymore. They just put everything into a, answering machine anymore. So.
Yeah, but it's just kind of wild to think that they would use such inaccurate information to try to justify. Of course, I'm not going to say this is the first time this has happened in government, but yeah, but anyways, it is certainly something concerning. And this isn't passed, but it's called the Fair Sharing of Highways and Roads for Electric Vehicles Act. So it's just something that was introduced. Doesn't mean it's going anywhere.
And interesting, her co-signer on this is a fellow congressperson from South Dakota, which is, I keep thinking there's got to be a corn connection here somewhere, but
you never know.
Yeah.
Corn is big business in this part of the world.
Oh, huge.
The clip you just saw was part of our live podcast. If you enjoyed it, don't miss out. Join us every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday right here on EV World News. We stream not just on YouTube, but also on Facebook and X, so you can catch us wherever you prefer. If you found this content valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and to share to help us grow. If you'd like to support our work, please consider becoming a YouTube member. It really helps us bring you the latest EV news and insights. I'll see you in the next one.